Welcome to the Ask Dr. Deanna show. I'm Dr. Deanna Holgren, your host. Join me weekly as I cover various health-related lifestyle medicine topics that you get to request. This show is for anyone who wants to proactively improve their health position. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ask Dr. Deanna podcast. I'm excited to be with you today and to continue on this incredible health journey together. Last week, we talked a lot about insulin resistance. And one thing I want to point out about that is that is something that really affects everybody. We have children who are struggling with insulin resistance. We have young people. Pretty much anybody who is overweight is probably going to have some level of insulin resistance going on. So if you didn't get to check that out, you might want to go back and listen to last week's episode. This week, we're going to dive in and talk a little bit more about gut. Now, I know we've covered this and we've covered it already this month. And I sometimes feel like I just keep, saying this over and over and over regarding the gut. But I want to go a little bit deeper and I want to talk specifically about what is going on behind the gut, kind of the underlying issue that is causing the disruption. I'm going to try to do this without going too sciencey, but I want you to understand that there is an issue here. And in a sense, I want to give you a compelling reason why it's important for us to change our diet, to eat clean, and to make some of the changes that we'll discuss at the end. So basically, to kind of, dissect the problem, if you will. The problem is that over the last, 30 plus years, we have really 30 to 50 years, we have had increasing amounts of processed foods entering into the standard American diet. And with new farming technologies, new things, new advances and so forth, chemicals, et cetera, we have seen a decline in health in certain areas that are basically related to the gut, a decline in health from the standpoint of massive autoimmune diseases, increases in cancers, increases in autism, a lot of issues that all of us have, encounter on a daily basis. And so what has happened is, we have a tremendous number of chemicals in our food supply. Think about anything that's in a box, a package, a box, or a drive-through window. Okay, that is not real food. It's super, super processed, highly processed foods with a lot of additives that are chemical additives, that are preservatives, that are, things that are, supposed to allow that thing, why can a box of cereal sit on the shelf for 10 years? Why does it have an expiration date that oftentimes is that long? And this is part of the reason why. It's because of what has been added in there to basically preserve that. Well, here's the situation. Okay. So we end up consuming this stuff. And one of the biggest culprits, which is not labeled on any food, is glyphosate or Roundup. Glyphosate or Roundup was developed as a farming technology, so that you have genetically modified crops that basically you mass spray. The weeds die. The crop is resistant. It's modified to be resistant to this glyphosate Roundup, and so the crop grows up. And so this was like breakthrough technology for farmers, going to make such a difference in their abilities and so on and so forth. The problem is that stuff is absorbed into the plant and it makes its way into the food. And you might say, well, then I won't eat genetically modified foods, which is a great idea. Avoid those for sure. And then I can avoid this stuff in my diet. Well, the problem is they discovered that it is a fabulous desiccant or drying agent. So even on crops that are not genetically modified, crops that are not organic, not genetically modified, they're going to mass spray that crop oftentimes with this glyphosate. And again, this residue makes its way into the plant. Scientifically, we've been told that it's safe for human consumption. Of course, we all know that's not the case. We see all of the class action lawsuits and all of these things about glyphosate, all over the TV and social media and whatever at this point in time. What we also know is that initially they said you could consume as much of this stuff as you wanted. It's not going to have an effect on humans, okay? But what they didn't realize, and scientifically was later discovered at MIT, is that while it may not be an issue for the human, it is an issue for for our gut microbiome, for the gut bugs. Okay, specifically, specific strains of bacteria that are supposed to live in our GI system end up being ineffective or inactive or unable to do their job. Basically, it kind of kills them off. Okay, so just imagine that it's just killing your gut microbiome off. And then this has a massive impact. Now, all of a sudden, when as a physician, when I give somebody an antibiotic, if they've been eating a lot of processed foods, well, they've got an increased risk for developing, a secondary infection due to the antibiotics, called C. difficile infection or Clostridium difficile. So it's a combination of, yeah, you just killed off even more of their gut microbiome with that antibiotic, but they were already impaired. They were massively impaired because of eating this processed diet with all this glyphosate. The glyphosate acts on a specific pathway. Here's the science part. So forgive me if you don't want to go there. Just tune me out for a minute. It's called the Shikimati pathway, and that is the pathway in which these microbes in our gut become ineffective or non-functioning due to glyphosate specifically. So we see this with the messing up the microbiome. Well, then what? And then add in all the other processed foods and all of the other ingredients, all of the other chemicals that really aren't studied. What happens if I eat this stuff every single day? And you guys know how we are. You find one that you love or a product that you love, and we eat it oftentimes daily, right? Every day I have my whatever. You fill in the blank. And we become somewhat loyal to that particular thing. And so we have this continuous exposure, if you will, to toxicity. And so that's why I'm so big into, let's eat clean. Let's move in that direction. Let's try to do as much as we can. And here's the thing. We don't want to be legalistic about it. We want to have a sustainable, what I call sustainable, healthy living, where, we have a program, a way of eating that is sustainable that I can do on a regular basis. Sometimes I might fall off. Okay. And then, get right back on because I definitely feel better when I am eating clean, if you will. So I talk a lot about real food and clean sources of food. So when the gut gets messed up, which I mentioned this in our last episode, talking about gut health, it's not just about GI symptoms where now all of a sudden I'm having, stomach aches or bloating or other, indigestion type issues. It's also about the immune system. Okay. So right now, more than ever, we need to focus on the immune system and protecting our immune system, boosting our immune system, helping our immune system function at its very best. And that means getting this processed food off of the diet, paying attention to the microbiome, because a large percentage of our immune system is in the gut. The other thing that it carries over to is the anxiety and depression, mental health. Okay, mental health oftentimes has to do tremendously with the gut, and I can remember looking at a neuropsychiatric textbook. I believe it's 2017 neuropsychiatric textbook. That's a medical textbook. There's a whole mental health textbook. There's a whole chapter in there on gut dysbiosis caused by glyphosate and why that has such an impact on mental health and is having the impact that we see in these areas today, that all of us deal with on a daily basis. We know somebody that we love, care about very much, who's either struggling with tremendous anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues, and it's quite possible that their issue is being made worse by the foods that they're eating and the fact that they're eating a processed food diet. So we got it. The great news is there's something we can do. We can just simply choose to eat real food, whole food, single ingredients, make things at home, and what a difference that makes across the board when we are eating healthy and restoring the gut microbiome. And, the gut microbiome, if you've had a lot of antibiotic exposure, you've had to take a lot of antibiotics over your lifetime, whatever, then you may need to be doing more. You may need to be a little more aggressive, but I typically have people do a probiotic. Sometimes I do a broad spectrum probiotic. Sometimes I do, I almost always want them to do a Bacillus coagulans because that is the strain that we see heavily impacted by glyphosate. So Bacillus coagulans, I actually take a Bacillus coagulans every single day. As a physician, I'm in my office. I know that I am likely exposed to that contagious, infectious, diarrhea thing that we, see so many times, C. difficile. And so one of the best ways I can protect myself from that is to make sure that I'm taking care of my gut. And then I'm basically, in a sense, resistant to it. I'm not going to have issues, even if I were to, bump up against it, whether it's hot in the hospital or in my practice, whatever. So that's something that we can do. Eating, eliminating the processed foods is definitely something that we can do. And then adding in fermented foods. There's an episode that we did talking about fermented foods and all of the fermented foods out there that, again, are going to add, good, healthy probiotics. There's a study that says, 6 ounces of, red wine a day actually can increase gut biodiversity. You've got a more diverse microbiome with that. And the same with other fermented foods as well. So I want to encourage you to incorporate fermented foods in your diet, and just to be mindful of this. So when I think about health and I think, okay, where is the most bang for my buck? Okay, what is the biggest thing that I can do in 2023 for my overall health that's going to have the biggest impact on my cognitive abilities, on weight management, on my energy levels, on, inflammation in my body? What can I do? What's the best 2 things I can do, or 3 things, whatever? Okay, so to me, the best 3 things that anybody can do. 1, it's eat clean. Okay, real food, clean diet, whole food diet. Number 2, it is to, basically reduce or eliminate insulin resistance. That means going low carb diet, getting rid of all the high carbs, incorporating some intermittent fasting. Okay, so clean eating, reversing insulin resistance, or, getting away from that. And then finally, healing the microbiome. Maybe this is your year to tackle those 3 things. I want to encourage you to focus on those things and get healthy. And I promise that if you focus on those 3, you will be amazed at the results and how much better you feel. And hopefully, as you continue in that plan, or on that plan, you will see, any weight that you may need to lose. You'll see that weight come off. You'll also see improvements in mental health areas, in the immune system, so on and so forth. So I'm excited about what we can do together in 2023. And I'm thankful that you've joined us today and learned a little more. So plug in next week. We're going to continue to talk about some of the troubleshooting with intermittent fasting, for example. A lot of people ask questions about, does this break my fast? What breaks my fast? What should I avoid when I am fasting, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the future, and have so many other great things in store for you as well. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed that episode. For more information, visit me at deannaholdren.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Deanna Holdren. I really want to hear from you, so message me. I love taking your messages and creating topics from them. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share my show with those who have an interest in health and wellness. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.